Hello, welcome to episode 18 of the BrownieKnits podcast. I'm your host, Gina, aka BrownieKnits. My little sidekick here today is Kennedy, aka Kiki. Okay, so today I am going to show you a finished project, talk a little bit about a fiber festival that I went to and a swap package that I received. And then I'm going to show you some new projects that I'm working on, and then answer some podcast questions. So I hope you have some knitting or crochet with you, and you can join Kennedy and I for a short little knit or crochet together. So I'll start off with what's been going on. I've been doing a lot of design work, and I've actually finished up all of the block designs for the BrownieKnits 2015 block blanket along. So those are all ready to release to you guys each month. I can't believe we're already through 50% of it. So my two blankets are all done except for being seamed together. So I'm saving that because I'm going to record that for you guys so that you can see a blocking and seaming techniques video for that blanket along. So right now I don't have any blankets on the needles or hooks, which is a little abnormal for me. I'm usually doing a blanket at all times. And if you watch the podcast for a little while, you might be like, well, I thought she was doing a raised blanket for her husband to show their baseball season. Every time I went to pick it up, I absolutely hated doing the project, and I just finally said, not this year, I'm not going to do one this year. So luckily I'd only bought yarn for, I hadn't bought a lot of yarn for it, so I was going to buy it as I went along. So that yarn will become probably hats. Yeah, so I don't really have any blankets going, and that's really abnormal for me. But that's okay because I now am freed up to work on starting the designs for the ebook of hats that I'm designing that I hope to release later this year or the beginning of next year. And I am doing the process of that a little bit differently. Normally with a design, I'll just have an idea and I'll sit down and kind of map it out a little bit and then knit it and write it up and edit it. For this one, because it's a whole book of hats, I've had all these ideas that I've like written down in my journal and then on napkins and notes wherever I was at the time. So I tried to do like watercolor sketches of each of them and then write down descriptions. And I'm glad that they're not going to be shared with anybody but myself and maybe my husband or Christina. They portray what I want the hat to look like. Like I can look at it and understand, but they're not like great drawings or sketches or watercolors. So, but that's how I'm kind of starting off because it felt a little overwhelming to just jump into designing 7 to 10 hats. So I'm going to do them now one at a time and see how long it takes me. Hopefully it'll be this year, but you know, if it's next winter, so be it. So and I have a few other projects in the works too, and one of those is our knitting collaboration that we're going to have between BrownieKnits and A Knitter's Life, and that'll come out in October, this coming October 2015. And I'm very excited about that. I have pretty much just the editing left to go on my portion of it. So test knitting and editing. So I'm very excited about how it turned out. And I love Christina's portion of it too. So I hope that you guys will join us in October for that knit along. And they will be paid for patterns, but we tend to keep our prices really low. And they're really super fun projects to knit in the fall to wear in the winter. So that's what I've been doing in terms of designing and stuff. I've also been spending a lot of time like going through and purging and organizing our house, and we've made it through the downstairs, and it was amazing we had enough drinkware to host a party for a couple hundred people and have a glass for every one of them. So and we are only 2 people in this house, so we downsized a lot of that and did a lot of organizing. I can now move around in our tiny little pantry and find things and know what we have. So that was all good. I still have the upstairs to do. We have a fairly small house, thank goodness. So hopefully it won't take me that long, but it still takes, if you've ever done it, it takes forever, right? Like I try to go through every couple years and act like I'm moving and kind of get rid of stuff that way. I just don't like to have a lot of clutter around. So anyway, we've been doing that since the weather's been nice and we can kind of move around easily. And I've also been listening to a lot of podcasts, not knitting podcasts. I tend to really zone out on knitting audio podcasts because I want to see the things. So I do a lot of watching video knitting podcasts and crochet podcasts, but I've been sitting out on the back deck and working and listening to some, I don't know what you'd call them, maybe crime podcasts. I don't know. Like I've listened to Seriel, which is hugely popular here in the U.S. And then if you are a Seriel listener, there's another one called Undisclosed that is related to the same case that this Seriel season 1 covered. So you might give that a listen. And then there have been a couple others that I've been trying out. One of them that I really enjoyed was called Criminal, and that one's also really popular here. And I was struggling on what to say when I said crime earlier, and you might think, oh, it's named Criminal, it's crime. And it is sort of crime, but it's not. A lot of their cases are just more like really odd little crimes. Like one of them is about Venus flytraps and where they grow in the U.S., and it's a very small area, and they've had a lot of theft, and they talk about why and who they think is doing it and all that kind of stuff. So this is really interesting. I've been listening to those as I've been working. And then we also went a few Fridays ago to the Hoosier Hills Fiber Festival, and I went with the intent of trying to find something for Hannah for her fall swap package that I'll send her. And I had a certain place in mind that I wanted to get stuff from, and I found that. And I have a certain theme in mind that it worked around. And then other than that, I was looking for, not really, I didn't know what else I was looking for. And every year I feel like it gets a little smaller, and there are a lot more vendors who are selling like made items and not so much supplies for crafters as there used to be, or at least it seems like that to me. But I unexpectedly came across a lady who was from a fiber mill, and she was selling the processed fiber, so you could buy it by the pound for a really, really great price. Anyway, the reason I was excited, and the fiber mill is Ohio Valley Natural Fibers. She's in Sardinia, Ohio. And I was able to get this pound of wool top in the cream for $10.50. I was so excited. Now, why was I so excited about this? Last year, right after I started the podcast, I needle felted a huge white pumpkin. And I did it using a pound of cream wool top that my mother-in-law had gifted to me that she wasn't going to use. And so it was around fall, and I love to decorate with fall themed things. And so I did this white pumpkin, and then people loved it. And I had a friend of mine, and then one of my in-laws' mothers, she wanted one as well. And I couldn't really, they were perfectly happy to buy them, but finding a pound and then making it worth my while to do it for the price that I was finding for that pound was really difficult. So I told them both that I would keep my eye out, and if I found something that would work, then I would go ahead and pick them up and make them pumpkins for the next fall, this coming fall. So I was able to get enough wool top to do pumpkins for both of those. So 2 of the 3 are pretty much already sold. And then the third one I'm going to make and put up on my Etsy store. So those will be coming a little later this year. I figure once things settle down from summer a little bit, then I'll sit down and later this summer and needle felt those. So if you're interested, I tell how I did it in one of the early episodes, and I'll put that along the bottom here, which episode that was. So I was excited about that, and it was supposed to rain that day, and we somehow missed all the storms. We got really lucky. It just sprinkled on us as we were leaving. We got a little ice cream cone at the outside ice cream place, and as we were walking to the car, it sprinkled on us a little bit, but that was pretty much it. So that worked out really well because we've had a lot of really humid, hot and humid days here in Indiana the last week or two. And so every day we've had thunderstorms and, you know, some lightning here and there, but mostly thunderstorms and some heavy downpours where it just, the heat just builds up and then it just, so. And then I also received a few exciting things in the mail. One of them, two of them, were for my birthday. I had a little birthday gift card from a friend of mine, and I bought this fabric, this Parisian themed fabric that I saw online. I actually saw both of these fabrics as knitting bags from some popular knitting project bag Etsy stores, and as you guys know, those go like that. And then when I saw the fabric online, I was super excited, and I thought, well, mine won't be as good, but I can sew some now. So I got this one, which I thought was super cute. And then I also got this Rome, well, Italy one that I thought was adorable too. And it's not just Rome, there's some Vatican City. Whoo, the lights just flickered. Storm again. Vatican City, Rome, a little bit of Florence, I think, yeah, Venice. So I loved this fabric when I saw it at the person's site and found it. Found both of these through an Amazon search. So if you're looking for them, you do have to buy it by the yard. So it's a little more than what I needed, but it was a birthday gift card. So there you go. But anyway, I wanted the Italy one because my husband and I, when we, on our honeymoon, we went to Italy, and that was just a really fun trip. So it was interesting to look on here, and we were looking the other day and saying, oh, our hotel was like just, you know, a block away from this, or, you know, this is where we got caught in the rain one night, and it was really one of those scenes. It was like from a movie. We were both really hot and exhausted, and we were bickering a little bit on our honeymoon. We didn't. I mean, it was just like a little thing. Like, I don't know which way to go. Well, I don't either. I've never been here before either. And so we were standing there in this huge square, busy square. Lots of crazy traffic. It was rush hour. And I don't know which way to go. Do you know? Da, da, da. And it just started pouring. I mean, just one of the hardest rains I've ever been in. And we just looked at each other and started laughing. It was really, it's one of my favorite memories now, of us standing there and laughing in the rain. And then we found a restaurant just a few blocks away, and it was, you know, we were American tourists. We were eating so much earlier than they do in Italy. And, but we were also just kind of seeking refuge out of the rain. And so they had just opened up. And I remember the guy taking pity on us and letting us in like a couple minutes before they really truly were supposed to be open, and he helped us pick out a wine and just was really sweet. So that was one of my favorite memories from that. But so I have those new fabrics, and I haven't done any more sewing, and I really need to, since I bought all these fabrics for my birthday and received fabrics for my birthday. I've just been so busy. I've been trying to make myself work 9 to 5, and then at night I've been knitting on something that I'm excited to show you guys today. And then on the weekends organizing, and we've been getting ready for my little nephew. Raleigh is going to come and stay with us. We're going to see him on Saturday for a birthday party, then we're getting him on Sunday. So it's just like 5 days away or whatever. And so I've been busily planning out things for him and I to do each day, because I'll be a full-time aunt, full-time stay-at-home aunt that week. And we're going to have him for, like, I think 6 nights and 5 days, something like that. So I have all kinds of things planned for him. And as soon as he leaves, the day he leaves one day, and then the next day my husband's sister and her 2 children are coming to stay with us for a little bit. So that'll be really fun to get to see 2 of my nephews and my niece. And then I haven't seen my older nephew in a while. He's at that age where I don't think we're very cool anymore. And he's just, you know, kind of doing his own thing in life and growing up, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so I need to get to see him sometime this summer. But it'll be good to see the other 3. I'm not sure how much knitting I'll get done that week. I think I'll be exhausted because we're used to it just being Patrick and I and Kennedy. So it's a pretty chill, calm environment in our house. And, you know, a few years ago, I guess it was, I had my niece and nephew, and my niece at the time was a baby. And I had them for, I think, 5 nights and 4 days or something like that. And whew, I was exhausted. I don't know how you people do it. I don't know how moms do it, dads do it. Oh, great admiration for you. Especially when you're, like, I don't know, like, how do you get any knitting or crocheting? Maybe you just need it for your sanity. So anyway, the other thing I received in the mail, just kind of strewn all about, was a swap package from Hannah. And so the Seasons of Swap in Ravelry, Hannah is my swap partner and she's in Finland. And we send, the 4 seasons we send a package for. So this was our summer package. And Hannah sent me some yarn from Finland. This Teetee Elegant is a lovely lace weight. It's like a deep turquoise or teal blue. There's not really, I mean, there's a color number, not a name, 132. But it has some oils and aloe vera and vitamin E in it. So isn't that interesting? I think that'll be interesting to see how my hands feel. So that'll probably become a little shawl. Although I did think about doubling it and using it in a hat design, but I don't know. I'm still pondering that one. So that will be fun to do. And then she also sent me, I'm just going to show you the name of this one. I'm sure I can't pronounce it. It's also from Finland. And it doesn't really have a color name either. I think the color number is 850. But it's really like just a lovely, colorful little ball of yarn. So I think this is a sport weight from what I could tell online. Because I can't really read the label very well. But when I put it into Ravelry, isn't that great? You cannot understand a label at all and type it into Ravelry and it tells you everything you need. So it's a sport weight. So I'm actually going to make sport weight socks out of this because there's not a huge amount of yardage that you would normally have for a sock weight or fingering weight yarn. I think there's 280 or something like that yards in it. But I have really small feet. So I think I'm just going to divide the ball in half, weigh it out, and cast on a smaller number than I normally do because the yarn's a little bit thicker, and then knit up some socks for myself. So that'll be fun. This might be my August socks. Although if I knock out my July socks really fast, then maybe it'll be July as well, but probably August. So she sent those 2 balls of yarn, and then she sent this little, and I haven't taken it out yet, although I did cut it so I could smell it, but I wanted you guys to see it, this little soap bar, and it is, I mean, if I can't guess what the first word is, I would guess the second one is citrus. And it smells sort of lemony to me. It smells really good. I can figure out where I cut it. Yeah, it smells kind of lemony. So I'm excited to start using that now that I've shown it on the podcast. And the other thing I couldn't wait to try out, and I could still show you guys without it being affected. So she sent me this tee from Finland. Although I think that you probably, it looks like they have German and French on all of the labels as well. So I bet you can get it in multiple countries in Europe. And this particular one is a collection of different flavors of tea. And the first one I pulled out before I really was paying all that much attention was this one, the M8 one, the little fun M8 one. And if you look there closely in English, it says ice cream. So it's ice cream flavored tea, and it's delicious. It's really yummy. And then there are some other fun flavors, and I think I got them all. So we've got orange and raspberry and toffee and chocolate and hot chili, which is a fun little label. I just thought they were really cute. So a couple of them, it had, it was full. I think I might give a few of these to a friend who loves tea and let her try out some. I don't do a lot of chocolate. Every now and then I will, but I've never been somebody who loves chocolate. So I might give those chocolate ones to her because I know she loves chocolate. But I was already telling my husband, like, when we run through this, we'll have to see if we can find this on Amazon because that ice cream tea was really yummy. I just haven't tried them all, so that's why I'm talking about the ice cream one more than the others. And then as part of this swap, you are to include some handmade items, at least one handmade item, I think is how the guidelines are, and in each package. And so Hannah's friend knit these little wristlet warmers, which are super cute, and did a little crocheted flower there. I'm not sure what the yarn is. It sort of reminds me of like a Koigu or a Noro, actually. I bet it's a Noro or something similar to Noro. That's what it reminds me about. But then Hannah also made some little stitch markers for me, and they're little crown stitch markers, and they are adorable. Aren't they cute? You can see the little crown at the top, and they just remind me of, like, I don't know, well, I have an angel, junk angel. I should bring her. I don't know if I've had her on here before or not, but she's called a junk angel, and she stands pretty tall. She's about like that from the table bottom, and I think her name is Amelia, and she was made by an artist that's local to here and using junk, and she looks like an angel, and the stitch markers really look a lot like Amelia. So I absolutely love those. And I say those, so here's one, and I'm going to show you the other one here in a second. So what have I been knitting on and working on? Well, I finished up my my Desert Vista Dyeworks, my Viso socks in the Top Gun colorway are finished up, and here they are. So they've got the red, white, and blue, and then the green and the brown, and they're inspired by the movie Top Gun. So those are all finished up, and after I finished those up, I decided that I needed to cast on some things other than designing and socks. Got a little bored of myself each podcast just talking about that. So I casted on my True Friend sweater. And the True Friend sweater is available in Ravelry for purchase. It is designed by Veera, and her last name begins with a V. I'll put it up here along the bottom of the screen, but I'm not going to try to say it. It's foreign, and I would just butcher it. But the pattern is really just genius. It's really cool how she did it. And first of all, the yarn that she used, and I couldn't resist using, is Madelinetosh Tosh Light, I think, and Merino Light. And you start here at the top with your neckline, and you do that, and then you work this little bib in the front and the bib in the back. That's a solid, excuse me, the main color. And she has you do a little bit of short row shaping, but not much, just up here at the top. And then once you have both of your bibs done, then you pick up all the way around so that you're connected and you're working out. So you've done your neckline and you've done the bib here and you've done the bib in the back. And then you pick up and you're working all the way around your sweater. So think of it like going here and around and across your back and then up around again. And as you're doing that, you are doing this stripe pattern with the secondary color. So I'm using the colors, let's see, I should have looked this up. The gray color in mine is Smokestack, and the purple color in mine, let's see, the pattern used one color and I'm using another, but they're both very similar. I'm thinking it's Duchess. If that's not right, I'll put that along the bottom of the screen what it is. And it's just beautiful. And I'm very excited to be knitting it. And here is the stitch marker, the second stitch marker that Hannah made. And it is serving the purpose as my beginning around stitch marker. And it matches my project perfectly. So, doesn't it? It just looks like it actually should go with it. So, anyway, that's a lot of fun to knit on, and I've been enjoying knitting on that quite a lot each day, actually. And I'm hoping that I'll have this done and it fits well and I love it and the weather's right to wear it when I go to Rhinebeck in the fall. And I've been keeping that in my little bag that the FeltedFlowerShop on Etsy upcycled for me out of my doggy Riley's coat. So he had this coat for most of his life, and then she made it into a little knitting bag for me. So I love, it's such a good size and it's so soft. It's absolutely perfect for a little bit larger project like sweaters and things like that. And then the other thing that I've been working on, and I'd like to invite you guys to join in, I started a crocheted sock along on the BrownieKnits Ravelry group board so that we can share our adventure in June and July of 2015 trying out crocheted socks. I've never done crocheted socks before, so this is my first try at it. I'm using the Ultimate Crochet Sock pattern by, let me see, I'm going to get her name right, Dorothy Hardy, which is a free online pattern. You can search for it in Ravelry and it has the link to the free site. And I chose that one because a lot of the other free crocheted sock ones I was finding weren't as spoon-fed to you as this one is. And I thought for my first sock experience for crochet that I really wanted to be spoon-fed. So I went with that one. Now I measured my foot and it's like the medium size around. So that's what I'm using in terms of the stitch count because it's in 3 sizes on the website. So I went with the medium sized and it just looks really big to me. But every time I put it on my foot, it's fine. So I'm going to go with it for this pair, and it might be next time around that I need to make the smalls, or even make the small and drop my hook another size. I tend to crochet pretty tight, and my gauge is, you're supposed to get 5 elongated single crochets per inch, and I'm actually getting 6 before it's blocked or stretched. So I'm already tighter on my gauge, but it's still coming out a little, I think a little bigger. So, but you only, there's only four stitches difference in between the sizes. So I don't think dropping that is going to make a huge difference anyway. So I'm going to go with it on this one using the size and hook that I am. And I'm using an F hook right now and the medium size. And I'm going to go with that, and I think they'll fit just fine. They might end up being, just kind of house socks, and I might drop my hook more than just one when I do the ribbing at the top to make sure they stay up in case they are a little big. And then the next time I crochet a pair, I might go down a hook size and drop my foot size a little bit. But anyway, I'm using yarn that Christina gifted me and dyed for me for my birthday, and she used the Knit Picks bare fingering and dyed it. I'm pretty sure she used acid dyes, not Kool-Aid dyes for this. And I've been calling it my raspberry ripple crochet socks because it just looks like raspberry to me, and they're not ripple, raspberry swirl. And they're swirling up, so raspberry swirl crochet socks. And you start at the toe and then you work your way up. And when I'm knitting, I like to do cuff down socks, but I'm thinking with crochet that I like the toe up because, I don't know, it's just not as hard to make sure that your toe looks fine, and it's just a little bit easier than with knitting. So, and it uses an elongated, again, this is a free pattern, so I'm not giving anything away, uses what she calls an elongated single crochet here. It is written using US crochet terminology, but I think most people are familiar enough with the differences between the US and non-US crochet terms to be able to go back and forth. I do that all the time because there are a lot of foreign crochet patterns that I like, so I always will just translate them in my head to US. For what it's worth, I think that the non-US ones make more sense because they're a little more descriptive of the actual stitch that you're doing. But hey, I don't live outside of the US, so I use US ones. And anyway, the reason I wanted to bring that up, the elongated single crochet, is that if you then search on the internet for elongated single crochet, you might get instructions for a spike stitch, which is also sometimes called an elongated single crochet from what I could tell. It's not the spike stitch that she uses here. She actually tells you what to do for the elongated single crochet, and it just makes it a little bit softer. Because one of the questions I had was, with crocheted socks, would you feel the stitches more than you do in the knitting? Because the knitting's a little bit smoother. With this stitch pattern, it softens it, so you don't feel that as much. And you're using fingering weight yarn, so it still, has those aspects carried over from if you were knitting the socks. So anyway, there you go. There's my start. So I'm going to post these up to the thread on the board, and I hope you guys will join in and share your experiences, and we can learn how to crochet socks together. And they go, just like with everything crochet, it goes a lot faster than the knitting. So those are the projects that I've been working on, and the things that have been going on in life. I wanted to remind you guys that we have our drawing coming up in the second podcast that posts in July. I'll draw for our mystery giveaway. And in that, you would get the See Also Murder book by Larry D. Swayze and some Plymouth Happy Feet fingering weight yarn to go with it. That is blood red to go with the mystery. So to register for that, go up to the BrownieKnits Ravelry group board, and there's a mystery giveaway thread, and you can answer all or any of, you don't have to answer all. You can answer all or any of the questions that are put up there about your favorite mysteries. And that'll register you, and then I will draw for those and make the announcement on an upcoming podcast. So now, before that giveaway, we had an Ask the Podcaster thread giveaway that we drew for in May, I believe. And so each month or each podcast episode, I've been answering 2 to 3 questions from that. So I'm going to answer a few questions now. So the first question comes from TokyoCityGirl, who is currently living in Tokyo, and that is Jacqueline. And her question is, what are your crafting dreams? I would love to hear you talk about things that you want to accomplish craft-wise in your lifetime. And then she has another part, but I'll read that in here in a second. So my crafting dreams and what I'd like to accomplish in my lifetime. My overarching crafting dream is not to be so focused on it as a business or work that it loses the passion and splendor for me. So before any other things, I always put that first. If I'm not enjoying something or it's taking away from the enjoyment of knitting and crocheting, then I'm not going to do it. So I made that rule number 1 when I decided to do this. And my second thing that I would say in my crafting dreams and desires, I have an idea for a book that is knitting based around a popular show. And I've been for years trying to figure out the best way to go about getting permissions to do the book, because I've thought about, well, I can do them as inspired by, and then not really say too much else about the show and release those as free, right? You can do that and not get in too much trouble. But a book, I need permission from the creators and the studio, and that's not easy and that's not cheap, but I really, 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 really love the idea and the concept. So sometime down the line, I'm hoping that I'll be brave enough to put together the proposal in depth enough and then present it to the powers that be and try to get approval and then try to get it published. So, but it is like this huge, it's not just one mountain, it's like a range of mountains to climb to actually achieve that. So that is my long-term lofty crafting dream. She also asked, what are your travel dreams and where would you like to go and why? My travel dreams are huge and somewhat unattainable. I would love to take a huge trip every year, but that's not always financially feasible. We haven't been overseas in quite a long time, and I really want to plan out a couple of big trips in the not so distant future. I'd love to, we haven't been to Ireland yet. I really want to go to Ireland, and maybe then, I don't know if we would swing down and go to Scotland too in that trip or not, but because I really want to go to Scotland as well, but Ireland probably a little more. We did go to, spent some time in England, I don't know, 5 years ago I think it was, and that was a great trip. I absolutely loved it, and was so much fun. And then we also, I have a friend who currently lives in Australia, and I would love to go over and spend some time with him, and that could be a little bit longer because we could spend some of our time actually on his farm versus staying in a hotel and stuff. So those are 2 of the most like tip-top places that we want to go next, kind of thing. But I just love to travel. We went, the first time that I went out of the country on my own, I went by myself. I'd never been out of the country before, so I'd never had to deal with like customs or anything like that. And I flew by myself from the US to South Africa. And I had a friend who was living there, the same friend that now lives in Australia actually. And it's a guy friend, but we're just friends. And I was already with Patrick at the time that I went over to South Africa. And went over there and stayed for 2.5 weeks, I think it was. And it was just the most amazing trip. And I look back on it now and I think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did all that on my own. Because there were a lot of days that he did his own thing and I would go off and do you know, touristy things or go around the city that we happened to be in or wherever we were at the time. Because we kind of went, we started out, he lived in Cape Town, so we started off in Cape Town and then went across and then drove back across. So we saw a lot of the country and it was just amazing. And then I was fortunate enough when he lived in Greece. He's kind of a little bit of a jet setter. He lived in Greece for a while, and when he lived in Greece, we went over and spent some time with him there, and that was also beautiful and just absolutely gorgeous. And there were so many funny things that happened on that trip, you wouldn't even believe it. But anyway, so, and when we went to, I mentioned that we had gone to Italy before for our honeymoon, and England, and then we went, and I wore this today because I knew this question was on there. We went to Turks and Caicos quite a few years back, and that was a really short trip. It was in February, and it was like heaven because we left here and it was, you know, a huge snow and ice storm, and we went to, it was so warm there. It was in the 70s, for which they were freezing because it had dropped to the 70s. And Patrick and I were in shorts and tanks and absolutely fine. And they were just, you know, aren't you cold? But I remember one night, it was so funny because we were sitting in this little restaurant, at the little hotel restaurant, and it was on the beach and it was beautiful. And they had on the TVs, they had downhill skiing, and they had on the other TV, they had IU basketball. And I thought, well, this is so funny, you know, you go away and get to see these things. And so I remember so distinctly watching those things in Turks and Caicos with the waves lapping in the ocean, and a couple of the people who were native to the island who were working were asking us all these questions about the downhill skiing. They were just astonished that people put themselves on these skis and throw themselves down in the snow. So that was kind of fun. And it just so happened that a friend of mine from high school was on the island at the same time that we were, it was just bizarre. So we had drinks with them one night. It was just weird. Things like that happen to Patrick and I all the time when we go on trips. When we went to Italy, we were in the square and I turned around and there was a group of kids from our local high school right there. So I don't know, it's just funny. And I won't get, for a lot of different reasons, I won't get into our stories from London, but they were very, very much like a sitcom. You had to look at it as a sitcom or else you might be offended. But we just have funny things happen to us. And I think it's, sometimes it's because it's just the two of us and we don't have children with us. Now people will strike up conversations with us a lot. And I don't know, maybe we just look friendly. And so we've met some of the most interesting people on these trips. So we're always wanting to, you know, go somewhere else and see what the next adventure is. Okay, I could talk about that forever, so I better stop. What is your favorite type? Oh, sorry. This is from WMH302, and that is Wendy from New Jersey. And Wendy says, what is your favorite type of sock heel to knit? My favorite type of sock heel to knit is, I'll give you two. My first one is the Fish Lips Kiss heel, which is what I did on these actually. And if you haven't tried that out, it's available for $1 in Ravelry. And once you do it, it's hard to make yourself want to do another type of heel. I just absolutely adore it. And then my second favorite type of heel is just your standard, heel gusset sock that so many patterns do, and that you learn a lot of times the first thing you learn when you do a sock. And a lot of people don't like that because you have to do the flap and the turn and all that stuff. But I actually like all of that. I like the concept and the magic of it and how it all turns and fits together. I don't mind it. So I really do like to do that one. But the Fish Lips Kiss is my favorite. It's number one. So I've been doing that one almost exclusively. And the third question today is from KnitsbyJaime, and she is Jamie from Flower Mound, Texas, which I think is a very cool name for a town, Flower Mound. And she says, what was or is the hardest stitch to learn for you to learn, and do you have any tips for newbies? So, since she's KnitsbyJaime, I'm assuming that Jamie, you're asking about knitting, but I'll give you a knitting and a crochet. For knitting, I personally found, and it's all up to the individual, but for me personally, it was hardest for me to get the entrelac concept. It's not hard, it's just knitting and purling and counting and slipping sometimes. It's not difficult, but I think every time I've tried to do it, I've had, sinus headaches and stuff, and it just hasn't really clicked as much as it should. So I would say entrelac for me is a bit of a challenge for knitting. And from a crochet aspect, I don't know why, but I cannot get the crab stitch. So something about that going backward thing that just doesn't click with me. I have tried and tried and tried, and it just doesn't work out. So maybe I'll have to figure out another project that calls for the crab stitch and have to try it again. And do I have any tips for newbies? My biggest tip for a newbie is you are only limited by how much you limit yourself. So if you tell yourself that you can't do something, then you're putting up a barrier that doesn't need to be there. So if you really want to do something, just have a mindset that you can do it and then sit down and go for it. On a lot of my patterns, I'll put down adventurous, beginner to intermediate. And the reason I do that, I don't think that beginners should just be limited to just knitting or just doing simple knit and purl combinations. I really think that that's how you learn and grow as a newer knitter. So, just don't limit yourself and be encouraging and kind to yourself, which isn't always easy to do, and I'm not always great at it. I'm often pretty poor at it, but I think that would be my biggest thing. I hope that those were interesting answers to you, and I wasn't just babbling on. Well, I was just babbling on, but I hope there was something interesting in there too. So I think that's everything. Don't forget to register for the mystery giveaway, and please feel free to chat on the Ravelry group board and send me emails or, whatever. I love to talk with everybody. Thank you so much for watching. For new and returning viewers, thank you so much. I hope that you'll come back to watch our next episode. And yeah, that should be interesting because that will be after I've had my nephew for a week. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to stay awake. But anyway, all right, well, I will talk to you later. Happy knitting and crocheting. Bye-bye.